That's why it's a psychological tactic. And on top of sucking out millions of taxpayer dollars to produce these fake images in NASA. But that's the main reason. They want you to feel hopeless. They're trying to bring you down.
How would you understand this verse? I'm sure you know of it.
Oh, yeah. In the name of God.
You can read it out and tell me how you understand it.
In the name of God, the Almighty and the Merciful. Chapter 21, verse 30. Do not those who disbelieve see that the heavens and the earth were closed up? So we rent them, and we made from water every living thing. Will they then not believe? Yeah, I read this one in my presentation.
So how do you understand that? What is that verse saying in regards to humanity? What is the law trying to establish by this verse?
I guess God is telling us the Genesis, how the world was created. And basically, at one point, there was the heavens, this physical solid object, and the earth, this physical solid object. They were joined together, and God forcefully ripped them apart. And then he made from every living thing water. That's the understanding I glean from that verse.
Well, that verse says, doesn't the disbeliever, this is the one he talks about, the disbeliever. Allah talks about the disbeliever in the verse.
Let me read that one more time. Do you have it? Yeah.
Sorry. Normally my Quran opens right to it. You see, it's a magic Quran.
Yeah. So, do not those who disbelieve see that the heavens and the earth were closed up, so we rent them, and we made from water every living thing? Will they then not believe? And we made firm mountains in the earth, lest it be convulsed with them. And we made in it wide ways that they might follow a right direction. So yeah, God is basically, he's telling them, do you guys not see how the world was created? Basically, he's showing that these people, they don't understand. They're not able to look and see how things were really created and formed by God. That's my understanding. It's not, he's saying, that this is wrong. In fact, this is right. The heavens and the earth were joined and ripped apart. It's just that disbelievers are not privy to that. They don't see it.
Okay, now, before I go any further, let me couple that verse with this verse, and then we'll talk about it. One 47.
Yep. In the name of God, the Almighty.
147.
Yeah. And the heaven, we raised it high with power, and we are makers of the vast extent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now couple those two verses together, and now you and I discuss it for a minute.
Yeah.
You tell me what you think about those two verses. I'll give you mine as it regards your flat earth model.
Okay, yeah. So basically, my understanding of that previous verse, the heavens and the earth, they were joined. Think of like two fabrics joined together. God forcefully ripped them apart. And then after, when he ripped them apart, he raised the heaven and he set it up. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding of it.
Okay, and that goes with the second verse included in that understanding.
Yeah, that would be exactly. So he ripped them apart and then he raised the heaven above it afterwards.
Okay. So now my understanding would be that this is these two verses are to establish that disbelieving people will prove the existence of God. Not people who love God and will just say anything to appease people because of their love for God in whatever manner that they love God, whatever traditional background they come from. It would be people who disbelieve in God that will establish the proof for God.
They'll kind of dig their own grave.
Excuse me?
They'll kind of like dig their own grave, as it were.
No, not dig their own. Yeah, we'll dig their own grave.
Yeah.
By the scientific wonder and the factual matter of creation.
Yeah.
So now here's what it says. It says, do not the disbelievers see. Allah didn't say, do not the disbelievers know. Because they might have known certain things about the universe and the earth and one thing after the other, but they weren't able to confirm it by sight. By sight. So Allah wants to say, don't the disbelievers see that the heavens and the earth was together, and then he separated them. It's what they call the Big Bang. I'm not interested in Big Bang or whatever. Yeah. It was just separated. So once it's separated, it began to spread. When you separate something, you drop a glass, it'll spread. Then the next verse talks about Allah continually to expand it. So now the only way that the disbelievers were able to see that and certify that, from my research,
Yeah.
is in 1929 when Edwin Hubble put up this so-called Hubble telescope and confirmed that the universe was expanding, that there's certain systems were moving away and expanding. Now they have the so-called James Webb telescope up, this may be even more powerful, and confirming that. So I say that has been established now, what Allah said, that the disbelievers would prove it by seeing it. The Arabs at the time, or whoever at the time or prior to that, might have had knowledge that this heaven and earth was some kind of thing and was doing, but they couldn't see it. They could only see it when they put something out there far enough to see it going away. Would you consider that as being some evidence for something, and that man now has left a certain, has left this earth and put something so far out that he was able to see far regions and see that they were expanding?
Well,
that's what Allah said.
I would contest that, just because, firstly, yeah, there was an original expanding, right? There was that ripping apart of the heavens and the earth. But then afterwards, God set the roof. He raised it, and then he says it's a roof protected. You see there was an original expanding, but then eventually he set it in place. And, I have no way to verify what Edwin Hubble says, that there's supposedly this telescope in space. I don't know that. But, it's not continually expanding. It says in there, he what is it? The heavens and the earth were together, then he ripped them apart.
And
but then
expanding is continuously in the second verse. He's expanding it.
Let's read that verse again. Let's see.
Because eventually he talks about rolling it up.
Yeah, you can think of like a flat carpet rolling up
Yeah,
the
of
earth.
course, I understand that too.
Yeah. What's it called? What is it?
Are you looking for the expanding verse?
Yeah. What verse was that?
Chapter 51, verse 47.
And I must say, like I would say to a lot of people, if you have to now begin to look at this again, it means that you didn't look at it properly when you considered this model, and so therefore your research is not thorough enough, because you're looking at something now to be more thorough.
Was it 51 verse what?
You follow what I just said?
14. Yeah, listen to
It's
that
not,
one.
I'm just saying, I respect your research and so forth, but as a critical thinker, and we're sitting here now to cross-examine whatever you said so we can get to the truth or get clearer, or at least we have something better to work with going forward. You see, because you're still going to walk out of here with your concept in place unless we can show you otherwise, and we're going to walk out of here with whatever we think unless we have, but at least we'll have something on the table, all of us, that we can maybe look at to further our understanding.
Well, I discussed this verse in my book. I deal with it and the reasons why I don't believe it's a Big Bang. And the reasons why I don't believe it's the Big Bang, which is what most Sunnis, they'll say, oh yeah, this is a proof, Big Bang, God predicted this miracle 1400 years ago in the Quran, is because according to them, what was the Big Bang? It was originally a primeval atom, which then expanded, and then that made space, time, and all of matter. That's not what the Quran says. God doesn't talk about this original singularity, this primeval atom. It's two entities, the heaven and the earth, and then they were split apart. So it's two physical objects, not this philosophical concepts of space and time. This is missing. And even I find it conspicuous, like all the things that are associated with the heliocentric model, like gravity, space, time, mass, all these things, they're missing from the Quranic paradigm. I find that very strange. Outer space, planets, all that stuff is missing. All the Quran seems to talk about is the sun, moon, stars, and the earth. That's it, right? So, and here's the thing, like, there's no way I can have an answer to every single question. Of course, the Lord is the one who knows all things, right? That's the thing. I cannot answer every scientific question. I don't know. There are many, many difficulties with the flat Earth model, just as there are many difficulties, way more, with the globe Earth model.
When you come to a conclusion based on something that deals with revelation from God,
Yeah.
you must have enough evidence to have certified and could establish your conclusion.
Yeah, it's based on the
therefore, your
preponderance of
conclusion,
evidence.
You must be able to answer every question regarding your conclusion.
Yeah, so what was it? Was 50?
51, verse 47.
47. Okay, that was my mistake. Yep.
And also, just considering, when we talked about this original entity or whatever it was that existed, what about the idea when Allah says when He intends a matter, He simply says to it, be and it is, kun fayakun.
Kun fayakun.
What do you understand that to relate to when it talks about the eternal creator who existed necessarily by himself with nothing existing, and then He brings into existence? He says to it, what did He say to? What was He addressing to bring it from nothing into something? Something had to receive that order to come into being.
Well, I know God says kun fayakun, so He says to a thing, be thou, and it is.
But where's that thing? Did it exist already?
Well, He says that with respect to Jesus and His birth.
Yeah, but we're talking about before Jesus. We're talking about when Allah existed eternally by Himself.
Yeah.
And He said to something to bring into creation, the universe, whatever it was. Did it exist so it could receive that order or what? How did it receive? What, He had to speak to something. Something had to respond. What was there for Him to respond? I'm just asking, did you consider that? Not that you can answer it.
Yeah.
I have my own view about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask you unless, because you could tell me anything, I'd have to eat that. But I'm saying, just being soft now.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
cool, right?
Yeah. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that, because people will say, well, if there's nothing but God and He said to something had to receive that order and then come into play. So what was there to receive the order? If I say, move there something, and something moves, well, something had to be there to receive the order to move.
What I would say to that is what that thing was when God said initially in the creation of the heavens and the earth.
When it was just Him by Himself.
Yeah, be, and it was. What that thing was, what its nature was that responded to that command of God. I honestly have no knowledge of that.
Good. Okay,
right?
good.
I don't kind of like speculate into what God was doing or what things were like before the universe was created. That's completely beyond my capacity as a created being. All I know is the universe that I've been put in.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I leave that matter with the Most High. God says even in the Quran to not speak of things we have no knowledge of.
Exactly. I
right?
appreciate that. But I'm just saying all that's going to come into play eventually because you have a work that you publish, you put a lot of time and energy in it. Somebody's going to challenge you on a level that is far greater than myself anyway. And these people might come up with these kind of things. So these are things you might want to begin to look at also.
Yeah, of course.
Them,
But the way I see it is, like I said, there's always going to be questions unanswered, difficulties, but I go based on the preponderance of Quranic evidence. And I've demonstrated, I don't know, 30, 40 verses, however many I did. And when I just scoop up everything the Quran says about the world that's around me, I get a very clear picture which seems to be at odds with what I've been taught. Right, with respect to the sky, with respect to the nature of the earth, and with respect to what's really moving, whether it's the earth that's moving or it's the sun, moon, and stars that are moving above.
Great. Anybody? Okay.
How do you understand chapter 41, verse 10? I'll read it.
Yeah.
And He placed on the earth firmly set mountains over its surface, and He blessed it and determined therein its sustenance in 4 days without distinction for those who ask. And He directed Himself to the heavens while it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, come willingly or by compulsion. And they said, we come willingly. I was just trying to say, like, did He say something to come together? Did He make a command? Like it says here, He was speaking to the earth and the heaven to come willingly.
Is this for me or for Brother Hamza?
I'm just trying to ask you from what he said.
Okay, yeah. So basically what I'm seeing here, say thou, do you deny Him who created the heavens and the earth in 2 days and make equals to Him? That's Lord of all creation. He made their firm mountains above it.
He said there was smoke, and then He said to the heavens and the earth, come willingly or unwillingly. How do you understand?
If I, tried to mentally plot out the Quranic Genesis chronology, it would be basically there was the heavens and the earth, they were joined. Then God ripped them apart. Then the sky was in, it's very interesting that verse, then the sky was in some sort of smoky state, I guess after ripping it apart. And then God collected it together and formed the firmament. And it's interesting because the reason why is God says in the Quran, on the last day, when people, when judgment's about to happen, the sky will bring forth obvious smoke. The word is dukhan in Arabic. The sky will bring forth obvious smoke, and it will be a punishment on the people, and they're going to say, please take this punishment away from us. So the sky was originally smoke, then God hardened it, but then he's going to revert it back to its original form. So that's all my understanding of that.
Did you have any retort to that?
No, I just wanted to know his understanding.
I was curious.
Just out of curiosity.
Did you ask the question not knowing any answer, or you just wanted to get some
I
answer?
just wanted to see his understanding.
You didn't have any understanding of your own.
No.
That's not a good way to ask the question, because whatever he told you, you have no way to rebut it. And so that not that he's going to be dishonest. I'm just saying going forward, as we are all Quran students, we don't make sure we don't put things out as we're trying to uphold. This is called a Tawheed conference, and everyone here, we understand this idea of Tawheed in the sense of absolute unity of God and this revelation that he's received. We're all on the same boat with that. Brother with his idea and concept and research on flat earth is just his understanding and research from the Quran, and that could have validity, could not have. We're here to talk about it and see. It's well out of my range, so I'm not able to speak like that. But my point is, if I do ask my brother a question, I'm going to ask him a question that I have an idea of the knowledge of it. In case he gives me something wrong, I can say, well, did you consider this? And he said, wow, that's a good point you made. But if I don't know and he gives me something wrong, I just take that and walk away with it and think it's right. So you follow me? So I said, going forward, as all of us, as researchers and so forth, and this is why I gave brother advice that these things that maybe I'm asking him, he might want to look at them also and consider those things to bolster up his argument, to strengthen his argument for those who might bring those and then he's unprepared for them. And that at the same time, he might find that they might alter something that he missed before. So that's all I'm saying. Make sure when you ask there's no problem if you want to ask the question to get information. But if you're asking the question maybe to try to show that maybe something you see there is saying that proving him wrong, then you best to know the answer to what you just asked. Because you talked about something called anthropomorphism, that Allah made the heavens and the earth actually speak. And it wasn't akin to my question. My question was way prior to that. You see, before they have the smoke in the earth, it was way beyond that. So you got to know that kind of stuff when you ask questions. I just wanted to make that clear. Not chiding. I'm just saying we want to make sure we're strong here. You follow me? In all cases when we're making arguments, and brother is secure in his position enough to come and sit here and have himself recorded, and this is going to go out. So people are going to look at what he said. It's not new. People know him. I've known this brother on the internet for a long time. So it's not new, and he's getting a opportunity now to put this out in another venue where perhaps now he'll get more exposure, and not just from Muslim and non-Muslim and all that, but from thinkers and scientists and all that. What's this guy talking about? He makes a manifesto. And maybe there's people who say, wow, they're peeping our thing. They know what we're doing. You see, so you understand? People might come knocking at his door. So this is what's going on here.
That's why I did it. We have a panel of believers here. Like I said, some of you have been Quran alone, students of the Quran longer than I've been alive. So that's why I brought this stuff up. Exactly. I'm open to the challenge and the correction. I love that kind of thing.
I understand, yeah. Anybody else with questions, observations?
Okay. One thing, I was looking it up, the 7930 from the Quran when you said the earth is spread out.
Yeah.
A lot of people translate that as egg-shaped.
That's a mistranslation. That word means spread out, and you can look at any authoritative translation. That word means to
What daha?
daha.
Because they said the root word comes from dahya, and dahya means round.
It doesn't mean.
Egg. It means egg.
If I'm not mistaken, daha means it refers, because they try to say that it's like an ostrich egg, right? It's not referring to an ostrich egg. It's referring to the nest which the ostrich egg stays in. If you look at an ostrich nest, the ostrich, he flattens out the ground underneath him, then she lays her egg in there. So that's actually what it's referring to. Daha means spread in and flatten out in the same way the ostrich flattens out its nest. That's actually a mistranslation that these people will do to promote the idea the earth is a globe. And even my understanding that it's referring to the ostrich flattening out the nest, spread out, it's consistent with everything else in the Quran, because God says over and over in multiple cases the extremities of the earth is like a bed, like a carpet, and that would fit with the earth being spread out in the same way the ostrich spreads its nest. So that if you were to say that the earth is like an ostrich egg, that would be at odds with everything else the Quran says, right?
Even ostrich egg doesn't like the shape of the.
It's not even like the globe earth exactly. It's not. It doesn't even work for that.
I think I saw one time Neil deGrasse Tyson
Yeah.
talking about how it's not even a globe, but it's kind of like squished.
It's squished at the poles due to centrifugal force, and the pear shape. Yeah, they change their theory all the time. They change it all the time. They basically, what happens is they'll make up a theory, then it'll get completely disproven, and instead of discarding the theory, they'll just like modify it a little bit. So like I'll give you a prime example. So, you know there are certain places in the world that get 24 hours of sun, right? So way up north in like Norway, northern Canada, places like that, they get a 24-hour sun. So basically the original globe earth heliocentric model was the globe, let's say this is the sun, this is the earth. The globe of the earth is going around the sun, and it's perfectly perpendicular with respect to the sun. But then that doesn't work, because we got all these places up in the north that are getting 24 hours of sunlight. So then they didn't say the earth's not a globe. Oh, we've been disproven. No, they modified their theory. They're like, no. You see, the reason why there's 24 hours of sun, because the earth is actually slightly tilted. So the side that's slightly tilted gets that 24 hours of sun. They're constantly changing and screwing with their theory just to make it fit the facts that are destroying it.
I think I have one last question for you. Oh, well, you can go ahead.
Okay, another thing that brought my attention when you was like going forth from the Quran to the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And you established that Abraham was trying to convince the people to exist in the God and all that, and he said that the sun rise from the east, can you make it rise from the west, right?
Yeah.
He's talking to mankind, right?
He was talking to that
Right?
king. Yeah.
So then you went to Joshua in the Bible, and you said that Joshua, was he commanded the sun to be still.
Yeah.
You don't see no conflict right there?
No, it's
This man had, is that a metaphor, or he commanded the sun to be still?
the biblical narrative is literal, because the sun was commanded to be still, and the purpose for that was so that the people whom the children...
But who you said Joshua.
Joshua, yeah. Yeah, so basically it was commanded to stay still so that the enemies of the Israelites, they would have nowhere to hide in the broad daylight, and then they could slaughter them. That was the whole context of that passage. So the sun stood still where it was, and the light was everywhere, and then they got slaughtered.
And that also alludes to the idea that God's immutable laws are no longer immutable. They're mutable. Because if he changed it one time and made the sun stand still so that Joshua could kill all his Palestinians, Philistines, or whatever,
Amorites,
then
maybe?
Amalekites, that therefore now God intervened in nature and made the sun not go, the day go as 24-hour daylight, 12-hour daylight, or whatever it was. That's intervention, and so they're no longer now can it be said that God's laws are immutable. That means right now, gravity could change, anything could change. Instead of raining down, it could start raining up, blood rain. Anything could happen because the laws are no longer immutable.
There really is only one law, and that's the will of God. And everything
but it's
submits to
immutable.
it. It's immutable, the will of
But
God.
it's no longer immutable now because he he changed it for Joshua.
Yeah, we even have in the Quran, generally speaking, the law is, when somebody touches fire, they get burned. But then we have the example of Abraham, right? He was thrown in the fire and God made it a means of coolness for him, right?
I don't take that as literal, and I don't take the Joshua thing as literal, but be that as it may. My last question for you
Yep.
is that, do you believe this idea that they have this James Webb telescope out in the universe and traveling through the universe? You believe there's such a device as that existing in the world today, the James Webb telescope? I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah, certainly.
You believe it exists?
Certainly, there are incredibly powerful telescopes, but I don't believe that there's a telescope floating in space.
You don't believe the James Webb?
I don't believe the James
telescope?
Webb telescope exists. No.
Okay. All right, so that's what I have.
So whatever they're showing is just fake?
I don't trust anything NASA says. And you can go through my book. I have a whole section. I show lie after hoax, after CGI, fraud after fraud, editing footage, screwing with it. It's very, very clear if you look into it that, I mean, it's the government. What do you expect? It's a military operation. What else do you expect?
They're saying, the flag is waving.
Yeah. Well, how is it waving? There's no atmosphere there, right? It's like we don't. I would imagine most people here, we don't trust the government on a lot of things. We know there's a lot of corruption, right? I mean, this is just another wing of the government built on taxpayer dollars, right? It's a military operation, secretive. I go through the history of all the NASA astronauts. They're all highly trained military professionals, people with combat backgrounds, fighting backgrounds, people who are willing to fight and kill and die for their government. So why would they not be willing to lie for their government too? Right?
Okay, I think we can conclude on that unless anybody else has anything before we close. Well, we want to thank Brother Waleed for the presentation and for allowing us to have this discussion. We appreciate him being here with us. We hope that he continues with us to the end of the day and the end of this conference.
Of course.
And again, we thank all of you folks who came out and participated and asked the questions and for your concern. And we hope that the viewing audience will look at this video and also give it the thought that it deserves. Subscribe to Brother Waleed's channel. I'm sure he got a lot of other information there that you could benefit from. I certainly have in the past. So we thank you very much for that time that you've given us.
It's been an honor and blessing. Thank you very much.
Mashallah.